Welcome to Monday Morning Express.
Drum roll. Only 2 episodes left, Dan. We're coming to a close.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah. Today, we're going to talk about quartering drivers. So this is a really cool little segment that we've done with Hal. Something that you might not want to jump into, but you're going to see it's not so bad. It's just a few minutes to be able to re-quarter a driver, and he shows us exactly the technique and how to do it. Looking forward to it.
And Harry Brunk, we talked about his layout, narrow gauge, beautiful, well-known, one of those all-time great layouts, and so we're going to see a nice interview that Jimmy Booth handled for us.
To help satisfy the hunger for Boyd, we have a little segment that we did, some of the units that he painted. We'll look forward to that on this segment.
Yeah, and also if they seen that weird, what looked like a fountain, it wasn't a fountain, was it?
Kind of like that one right there, right?
Yeah. What is going on?
Yeah, so that's Anthony Duarte. We visited with him while we were out on our trip in California, and we're going to explain what that was all about.
Yes.
Have a little something to show you.
He had a surprise for us, although it was a surprise that ended up being a different kind of surprise.
Yeah, interesting.
So we'll talk about that after we go out and visit him.
we got to explain.
So all that and more today on Monday Morning Express.
We're here at the Cheyenne Depot Museum with model railroad royalty, Harry Brunk, longtime friend and fellow modeler. And we had the opportunity to be able to tour the Forks Creek layout. And Harry, it's as beautiful in person as it is in the photos.
Well, thank you.
I was raised on the articles up Clear Creek on the narrow gauge and the narrow gauge and short line Gazette, which happened to be the longest running series of articles for that publication. And it was over some 30 years, like maybe 35 plus years that you ran those articles. And then came out with the books. You got 2 volumes of Up Clear Creek on the narrow gauge. And Harry, can you tell the audience your concept when you started this, what you intended to do?
Well, it was really fairly simple. I wanted a model railroad that looked like the prototype and acted like the prototype and realistically could run, and slowly but surely it finally developed that way, so that I actually came pretty close to getting things the way I had always hoped they would be. Realistic scenery, realistic trains, doing realistic operations, and that's what ended up being finally working out.
So you obviously had to do a lot of research to get references for all the structures and the towns, and so
and that was sort of icing. That's sort of like being able to have your dessert, and actually it's part of the meal anyway. Yeah. Because you got to go to Colorado, and you get to do all that traveling in the country you want to be there, just to see for fun anyway. So I was doing it as research, and it was really rather enjoyable all the way around. I had kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like the layout was finished?
I came close probably the second time around when I finally got it in the trailer, and when I finally got everything all hooked up and connected. It was close. It was really close, but there was always more projects that you could do, and always things that could be improved. And so it never really actually was done. That used to irk me quite a bit when people said that, because I thought, no, I'm going to get this done. Well, it was done up to the point where I could say it was done, but I knew better, so I guess it's true.
I'm sure there's a lot more to do in your mind than what we see on the bench work. Yeah. Now, having to have a magazine deadline every couple of months, you must have been pretty proficient in your modeling.
Well, that was part of my ploy, too, because when I started it, I had done maybe 3 or 4 other beginnings to layouts that were not narrow gauge necessarily. A couple of them were dual gauge. But the problem always got to be you kind of lose interest or you start fizzling out. So my bright idea was I'll start with Forks Creek. And that's not a switching layout by any means. And so it's got to go somewhere else. It just can't, I mean, Forks Creek is interesting, but it can't just be a railroad into itself.
Right.
And then I thought, I wonder if Bob Brown would be interested in a series of articles about this. So I'll do Forks Creek, and then we'll get on to Blackhawk. And if I work this right, And when I first started the articles, Forks Creek was done. So we just sort of started with my writing about it. But meanwhile, I'm working on Blackhawk. The clever idea was that I better keep about 6 months ahead of where the articles are, as far as construction goes, and it's going to sort of force me to keep moving along, which it did, and it was an enjoyable force. Actually, it gave me a good reason to keep busy and keep at it.
And it was a lot more than a series of articles about modeling the towns and the structures, scenery, and track work, but you also had a series of articles on the different types of rolling stock and locomotives, like for instance, the Gons, they had different phases.
Yes.
And so you went into detail with those. So the equipment that you have on the railroad is very accurate to the CNS for the appropriate time.
As much as possible, yes.
Yeah. And so we really appreciate you taking the time today to tell us a little bit about it. Now your favorite scene is Forks Creek.
Yeah.
And my favorite scene was Argo Tunnel. I started it when I saw the article in the Gazette, and it's appropriate that they're both side by side. So thank you very much, Harry, and I'll have you sign my book.
Okay.
All right, Boyd, nice to have you back with us, buddy.
Indeed, I'm glad.
So instead of being in California, now we're back in Florida.
I'm imported.
Welcome to our home.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, while you were here, we just wanted to mention a little bit, on last season, we'd done all this series of painting with you out in California, just beautiful stuff. But this is really practical now. Something that you've done on our website was you've gone through, and we have an example of one here, this E9 unit here, Union Pacific unit. And I tell you, these Oriental pieces, I mean, we were lifting them before. These are some really industrial pieces, but you've done a nice job at painting it, taking it down, and tell us exactly what you did. We've seen some information on the screen behind us, but just walk us through the process. How much did you buy it for?
For an ABB set, I purchased them for around $650.
$650 for all
So
three
around
pieces.
$200 a piece,
Okay.
The A unit was around $225.
Okay.
Or probably a little bit $230, somewhere around there. So, but yeah, all three pieces came out with tax and everything under $650.
Okay, great.
Or can you find a unit for, 3 E units? So,
And this is exactly what we were talking about before on the show, is you can get some of these units like this, and guys play with them, and
these are hidden gems. They're out there. Somebody else could have put their own paint job. You're still going to strip it anyways.
Right.
If you don't like the paint job, and some of these are in the bargain basement, or the unpainted section, it's like, these are really good deals to find.
Right.
And since watching this series last year, I think we have some painters out there and stuff.
So you learned how to paint from the series.
Yes, I did. I taught myself.
All right, so tell us exactly what you did then. You got the 3 models. You got the ABB set there. So
Yes.
What was the first
thing I did is I completely disassembled the model.
Okay.
Took apart everything with the drivetrain on both trucks. I completely drained out all the old oil. I had put them through an ultrasonic cleaner, cleaned them all out, and repacked them with a synthetic grease. That way, I don't have the issues with oil spills.
Right.
Let's place a new grease in there, check out your gears, make sure everything runs right, and do all your repairs before you paint it, because the last thing you want to do is paint it, find out there's issues. So completely, the units were great.
Okay,
I ran
so
back and forth.
you disassembled them, right? You put in new grease, but then because this has a coating on it.
Yes,
right? So we
definitely
put it in
has a
the
coating.
Aircraft remover, right?
Yes, I went back and I stripped the units using the aircraft paint stripper and removed the grills on the side. The grills have to come out. These are soldered.
Yeah,
they're not glued as most models would be,
Okay.
So back then, Oriental, they did solder on their grills.
Okay.
And I was able to pick up replacement grills from Plano, photo etch grills. So
Great.
And they're still in stock. So, but after the grills were removed, off to just like in this right here, this process.
Beautiful. There it is, disassembled like that.
Yeah. And I stripped them and just went through, made sure everything was nice and clean before I painted them. And here is using the Maintenance Away, Scale Coats Maintenance Away Gray, number 20. And that is to bring out the yellow that's been applied. The yellow will come out really nice and brilliant.
And rich. Yeah. Really rich.
And I always spray that. That way, every brass model will come out to the same color that I spray. And after spraying the yellow, I masked off the sides, this whole side section where the yellow was, and I'm going to paint my stripes. And that's with the tape on there.
And you say paint your stripes.
Paint
We're gonna
my
see
stripes.
in the illustration how that's actually being done, because what color are you about to apply?
There it is.
The red, right?
This is daylight orange. I mean, daylight red. I forgot the number, but from scale code, it's daylight red.
And you mentioned you're spraying upwards, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never tape off a line.
Right.
You're going to shoot your colors on there, overlap the top part, because we're going to spray gray up on top.
Right.
I'm protecting the yellow, spraying the red. Now I'll go back and mask off my red stripe to make sure I got a crisp red line.
Okay. Because
The red lines.
You're getting ready to paint the gray at this
Yes.
point.
Now when I spray in an upward direction.
Yeah, so we see it.
So that way, the problem is that when you tape, you never want to shoot at a side angle on a piece of tape. The paint's going to go right underneath the tape.
Right.
So yeah.
So you weren't shooting down in any way. It was always shooting up over it.
And I'm always painting my stripes. I just gave up on decaling stripes.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And we mentioned they're beautifully
lines.
straight. Yeah, everything looks good on it.
The colors come out really nice, so I just paint all my stripes. And
then on the
green,
the green,
just taped it off up
Tape it
there.
off.
But yeah, the stripes are, since they're long, to have a really straight edge, you just sit there and pull on your tape, apply it into the model, look down the sides, make sure it's nice and straight.
Right, okay.
And there's nothing worse than putting on decals, and then sometimes their solution will start to curve it or make it go weird. So yeah, I'd rather pull on tape and make sure that I got a secured edge.
Yeah. So here it is, fully assembled. Oh, by the way, you mentioned something down at the pilot there.
Yeah, the pilot. I made the model came with an open pilot.
like
and
this one, right?
Yeah, and I just custom made out of styrene a
little cover
for it.
Yeah, looks
and if
good.
you want to put on a coupler, then you could just unscrew it and the cover pops off.
Nice.
So yeah, you could put on your own coupler in the front if you want to run it with other units.
Excellent.
The units, I finished them off. I put DCC into them with sound, and I added a little bit of details to the cab. On the glass, I put in like decals for the cab shades, and painted the interior and put in some crew members. Yeah. And
so what was the investment?
The investment was $650.
Okay.
And then my DCC parts, maybe like around $350. Not that much spent. So, but from there, I sold them for $19.50.
Excellent.
There's little hidden gems, and I actually wanted to keep these for myself. It's like I bought it. I was just going online, saw these. I'm going, these are worth
perfect
something.
candidate, right? Perfect.
I did it, and I fell in love with it. I'm like, wow, I'm going to build myself a UP train.
Wow.
Like everything else, somebody called and said, I'm taking it.
That's it. That's it. Well, hey,
man.
this was just a great example, though. A great example of something that you could pick up pretty cheap, whether it's on the site, an unpainted model in our regular HO section or just listed. We've got them, as you mentioned, in the bargain brass, because there you can get some even better deals. Maybe it has something else wrong with it. But you paint them, you decal these things. Wow. You added the DCC and everything. Great.
It doesn't hurt to just go for these. I mean, the models being so cheap, you can buy a passenger car. Some of them are under $200. Buy a passenger car, paint it up, try it out. I'm just wanting people to just try and do something with these older models, and they'll find out that they can do it.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a believer.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hey, nice job again.
Thanks a lot.
Again, perfect example for us to be able to show our audience a little follow-up to our segments last year.
Yeah. Hey, there's more sales to come, and keep your eyes out there for these things. They're out there. I see them all the time, and I'm like, please, somebody grab them. If you guys don't buy them, I'm going to have to buy them. I'm already busy. I don't need more projects. They just look so cool on there.
Excellent. Well, thanks for showing them off.
All right.
We're in the nerve center of eccentric engineer, and Anthony, can you tell us how you develop a project such as this 1918 injector?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I've become, thanks to brass, a bit of a rivet counter. So when I develop a part that is an actual model, I want it to be everything to be exactly like the real thing as much as I possibly can. So this is a real model of a Nathan Manufacturing Company 1918A injector. It was used on locomotives from little 060s up to pretty good sized Mikados, and that's about the range that they were able to handle. So this is the model, the computer model, which I drew from actual Nathan blueprints. So all the exterior dimensions are exactly scaled in 1/8 scale for this particular injector. Now there is some information that's missing from these drawings. So luckily I have photographs of these injectors. So this informed what the lettering looked like, where it went, and so with that information combined with the drawings, I come up with this finished model.
Now that's beautiful on the outside, but we know it's got to be a working part, and so what's in the inside to make the thing work?
So after I get the outside all looking right, then I take my known cone design from my injector and I core it out to make sure that everything's going to fit inside and everything lines up where it needs to go. So here you can see sort of a cross section of the model of what it'll look like if you were to cut the injector in half.
So you can't model it exactly like the real part. You have to put a little engineering into it to make it work scaled, right?
Yeah, if I made everything on the inside exactly to scale from the real thing, there would be wall thicknesses that were so thin that it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't be possible. So I have to take some liberties on the internals to make it work. But everything on the outside, if you look at it next to a real injector, you'd be hard pressed to find any details that were different.
Very nice. You got any other little projects you've been working on?
Yeah, I was watching Monday Morning Express the other day, and
What?
I thought it might be fun if our viewers got somebody. Maybe you guys want to keep them for yourselves, but some Monday Morning Express keychains.
Look at that.
So they'll.
That's very cool. I can't see what they look like for real, though.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to imagine. You see it so big on the computer,
Right.
It's hard to picture what it really looks. Sometimes it looks completely different than what.
Well,
you
let's go
expect.
make one.
All right.
Sounds
I
good.
got the machine ready.
Tell us, what is this huge monstrosity?
So a lot of brass guys I know actually work on their models. It's one of the cool things about brass. A lot of you probably have drill presses or small milling machines.
Small.
And this is just a bigger version of that, and
Okay.
it's computer controlled. So this is my CNC mill. It's my primary workhorse. And we're gonna work on making that Monday Morning Express keychain on here.
So all of this for our keychain.
Well, and for all my injectors.
Oh, you use it for other things.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
So,
just a keychain. All right, show us what we got.
Sure. You wanna hit the green button?
Jimmy better do it.
Yeah.
Jimmy. Oh, you got the right color.
Nice job, Jimmy.
So I take the model that I created on the computer, and I put that into another software where I write my program. I decide what tools I'm going to use and draw out my tool paths.
Okay.
And then I put that program on a USB stick, and I'm running it off the USB here.
Okay. So now we have the little keychain you're making.
Yeah.
Approximately how long does it take to make something like that?
This particular part it runs for about 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
It's not too long. Some of my programs for the injectors run for 36 hours.
Really?
I do sort of mass production style, just a lot of parts at once, and I hit start and come back the next day and see if they finished.
Wow. Okay. That's a pretty intense machine, I tell you.
Yeah. So when I'm in the heat of production, there's 9-10 days straight where it's running 24/7.
Well, now we'll see the finished product. It's a Jimmy Booth #1 fanboy for Pat. And Pat, this is the only free piece of brass you'll ever get from me. So there you go, buddy.
Jimmy, I am honored to be your #1 fanboy.
I know. I'm sorry, Boyd, but this dude rocks.
Well, Anthony, that was kind of a nice lane you pulled, but I'm looking for our Monday Morning Express keychains.
Well, we'll make them.
All right, that's
I'll make them
good.
for real.
So show us real
send
quick. You have the part that you showed us.
Yeah, so
right.
Yeah. We got
There's
some-
the finished casting off of his drawing.
Yeah, so this is the casting for the 1918 injector, and it went from that drawing to a mold to a wax to a casting, and now here it is.
Good for you, man.
Very
Hey, you're a
cool.
talented guy.
On this segment, on How To with Hal, we're going to talk about a problem that we come across every once so often, and that is the need to recorder a driver. Now, why would we need to record a driver? What are some of the symptoms if you see a train?
Well, usually when a driver is out of quarter, it'll usually start binding up at the 9 or 3 o'clock position, just before it gets to the 9.
Okay.
If it starts binding up at like the 10 and the 1 o'clock position or the 7 o'clock position, it's probably not a quartering problem. I'll go over here quickly, some problems I've had that drove me nuts trying to figure out. I had one Santa Fe model. I quartered it, I don't know how many times, and it had all the symptoms of a quartering problem. And the main piston rod was going into the cylinder, hitting the steam pipe.
Oh, okay.
And all I had to do was take about 10 thousandths off.
Okay.
And that fixed that one.
All right.
If the rods are locking up, say way before the 9, it could be something else in the valve gear.
Okay. But if it's about the 9 o'clock position,
9 or 3,
Yeah.
when the rods,
Okay.
you may have to turn the engine
look at the
around
other
to
side.
see
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Very good. So before we get into the recording of this particular driver that we have here today, Hal, I just wanted to mention some of the tools that we have at the outset, and this is where Northwest Shortline really comes into play. We have on the table here our gear puller, we have our Sensapress, and of course we have our quartering tool, the Quarterer 2, which is very important. And something in addition to that, we've had this ourselves here at our shop, is what is called the accessory parts wallet from Northwest Shortline. And here's where it has the crank bushings in not only odd 80, but the crank bushings in 1/4 millimeter.
That's right here.
Right? Very good.
1.4 millimeter.
So that comes with this little parts wallet, as well as the axle centering holder in 3 millimeter, as well as the 1/8. We really don't need the 1/8. The 3 millimeter is what we're going to look at and utilize here today.
And that 3 millimeter is the
Right.
semi-diameter of that little hole right there.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay. So tell us how we can go about then recording a driver and how you can.
Okay.
proceed.
First of all, before you put this into the gear puller, make sure that you don't catch the flange hung up on the edge of this.
Right,
If you
right.
start pushing, you're going to break it off, and there goes your bearing.
Okay.
So
And tell us which side you're going to pull there.
I'm going to pull the uninsulated side off. I don't like touching the insulated
Yeah.
side.
So the non-insulated side. So very important.
So I'm going to slip this in here, back this off. On mine, not this particular one, I've got another one at home. I made the pin out of brass, and that way it doesn't score up the end of the axle tip.
Okay. Before you even do that, can you tell us a little bit about why is this all painted black here?
Oh, okay. If you don't have a quarterer and you got to put a new gearbox on,
Okay.
I took a Sharpie and I colored it, the axle tip and a little area around it. And then I just laid this on here and with a sharp edge scribed a line.
Okay.
And so when you pop it off, if you get a good loop, look at it and kind of get it lined up and then press it back on. If you don't have a gear puller, a quarter to do this, make sure shims up under here so this is sitting perfectly
Right.
level before you go pushing it in.
Because it protrudes out
You
just
might
a little
get
bit.
the axle end crooked.
Yeah. Okay. So good to know.
And also, if you're putting in a new axle, have a little bevel around the edge of it.
Okay.
Because if it's flat, sharp, it goes in crooked, it's going to cut its way in.
Okay. We want to make sure everything is true when it goes in there. Yeah.
You only get one chance.
Right?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove, and I'm going to make sure that
So that little pin lines up and you're
I'm
going
gonna get my
to push on that
optimizer
axle.
here. And I don't want to be pressing on the. Okay. I'm checking that flange is it's clear of the.
There you go.
Okay. Now, if you'll hand me this little plate here, this kind of supports the gear. In case you want to reuse this gear or something, you're not going to break teeth on it.
So it slips in behind it,
Yeah, I'm going to slide this bearing off. There you go. Usually the nylon gears will come off pretty easy. Okay. Now here's our new, we'll use this one here. Always want to make sure you're got your bearing on there. The flange goes on the outside. So I'm going to try and hand start this.
Have you ever had a problem where that gear just won't go on there and you have to open it up just a little bit?
Yeah, matter of fact, one of our earlier videos we were doing here, this particular gear here was real tight. If I was at home, I'd have a 3mm ream I could run through, a hand ream, and open it up a little bit.
All right.
But I'm going to start this. I put a little more bevel on that edge.
Okay.
So it starts in true.
Of the axle itself, yeah.
Now I'm going to set this over the hole. Probably ought to start it here, just to be on that. Hand me the other Cincy press there.
Oh, okay. Yep, it's got to have the pin in it.
Okay, I'm gonna. Actually, you can do this to support it. I just want to get it started through the gear. Okay, it's almost through, so.
And of course, here's where that aligner underneath helps.
Okay, that is bottomed out now.
Okay.
I want to get it to come through so I can get it going in the hole. This hole is almost a little bit too big. I don't want to damage the teeth on the gear. Okay. You can see it started through. And this is our 3mm gear aligner.
Okay.
Give me the other one, Cincy press.
Oh. And we might explain, because now it doesn't have that. The reason we're using two is because it doesn't have the pin in that one.
Well,
so
actually,
easier.
I need the pin back because we need to take out this plug. I
gotta
don't
go
like
through.
these in there.
Yeah. Here, I'll catch that.
Okay. Don't really need it. Well, I could have left that in there, but I'm going to put this on there. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to measure the length of this axle, and it's about 20 points. I'm going to call it 2070. Half of that would be 1035. So I'm going to set this down to 1030. That's close enough. There we go. And got this little, that's
Right.
10.35 millimeters.
And so that's going to help us in the positioning of the
I'm
gear,
going to
right?
lay this on here, and I want the tip of this, the edge of it, centered on the gear. That way.
Okay.
Now this gear does have some splines, so I'm going to get some resistance when I start putting that on. Now I just started going into the splines. That's close enough. Now we're going to put the, don't forget to put the bearing back in.
Right.
Remember the flange goes
Out.
out.
Right? Yep.
Now I'm going to take my quartering pins and screw them in. This is a Korean driver. It's a 1.4 millimeter screw. Most of the Japanese are 0.80. That's why in that little kit, you've got the
bushings, yeah.
The 0.80 won't go through that pin.
Right, okay.
And it's just got a little big, and you don't want to use the 1.4
Yeah.
on the 0.80 because you're going to get
Yeah.
some slop.
That's kind of like why we have our bags, you know, labeled that way so that
Okay,
we
so I'm
keep
going
them
to take
apart.
the quarter, put that up there a little bit.
Move this out of the way so we can see it.
I kind of like to keep these just kind of dry, lubricated, but
Yeah.
I'm going to,
And we notice our slots here, right?
you got the little, okay, about a quarter.
Our pin can go in there.
Got to slide this bearing down because I want that little plate between the bearing.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go. Now, I'm going to push it down, make sure it's in there.
All right.
I'm going to take this off. I'll leave that one on. Now we're going to go in. Raise that up. Okay.
So let's take a look at that on the camera then. So we've got it into our slot here, the pin, right? All right, and then the bearing is in. The plate is inside the bearing.
The
There.
bearing should be inside the plates.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay,
Okay,
so
now-
we got that.
We got our driver here, and I'm going to position it. It should be 90 degrees off from the other one.
Okay.
I'm
our
going to
top.
slide this on.
And so that plate, that's going to go right into the pin there, isn't it?
Yeah, we're quartering left.
All right.
Why, it's a good guess. You want to make sure that,
Yeah, look at that. It fit right in. Otherwise, you just turn it a little bit.
yeah.
Okay. And so there we go.
Okay, now I'm going to set this in here and just come down with it. And it's going to stop. Now we have a quarter driver.
Look at that.
Now, normally when I get done, I take my wheel gauge and I make sure if it's
Sure.
if it's out of gauge, you may have a flange that shifted on the wheel center. So
Okay.
you're going to have to adjust that. We'll do that at another
Okay.
show.
So, and of course, in this case, you would go back and all of the drivers, you typically would quarter all of them, right?
Yes, I would do them all.
Okay.
Because don't know whose quarter we used,
Sure.
was used
Makes
to
sense.
assemble the thing.
Makes sense. All right.
But if you do the scribe line, then you only got to do that one driver.
Okay. Very nice.
Now, okay, that's ready to go. And I'm looking at it pretty good, and it's pretty much centered.
All right. So there you have it, right?
Brass Trains, how can I help you? Please hold. This is Jimmy Booth, and you're watching Monday Morning Express.
Another great episode, Roland. But the thing with Boyd, I like not only are we showing people how to, but I think it was really informative to see how you could take an inexpensive piece of brass, or a few pieces in this case, and I mean, you can really build a lot of value, get a great looking model if you're just willing to take that time to paint it up, and what a great little tidbit we got from Boyd there.
Yeah, he really took those unpainted ones. He got them right from our site too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. BrassTrimmers.com.
Very nice.
Or you can buy the newest and the best, or you can get great deals on older, slightly out of production brass.
And paint them up, right?
Paint them up.
and sell them, make a dime.
But that's what's nice about brass, and that's why it holds its value, is because, I mean, you could be dealing with a 40-year-old model, what you're seeing with Hal and you guys, to like, you could re-gear it. There's just so much you can do and still have a fantastic looking piece. So
so nice job with
it's
that.
a nice part of the hobby.
He did some good, really, really good work. And he applied all of the principles that we have been talking about in our previous season in our painting techniques.
And then you have the pride of knowing that, like for the guys, if you guys learn to do that stuff, you're going to take a lot of pride in those models that you refurbish like that and paint up. So how about custom decals, though? What if they want something that's not available?
Well, tune in next week, because we're going to go back out to microscale. Okay, so Boyd and I were able to talk with microscale, and certainly if you're looking to have specific custom decals done, don't think that you're out of luck, so to speak, on that, because we're going to show you ways that you can get with others, and Microscale has a nice little program in which they allow groups to be able to come in and order in bulk like that.
And I mean, if you want it bad enough, you can still get it. We actually plan to use that service for some projects that we want to do one day. Now, you see I have no mug because I've given up.
What's happened?
I have given up. So can you at least show us a little preview
I'll tell you what.
Brand new Monday Morning Express mug that's so great we've had to wait nearly all season for it.
All right, by the magic of television, you're going to see it on your screen right now.
Whoa.
There it is. Unfortunately, Dan, you can't see it, but our audience can see it.
I can visualize it in my mind.
So, but this is a really cool looking mug. It represents the places that we've been this season. There in California, in Colorado, up in Wyoming, and just some nice snapshots that we were able to take that really cumulatively put it all together for us. So,
we wanted
nice
something really
mug.
special.
Yeah.
For the guys at the shop, we're going to give them a little gift there. Also, for some of the guys that were on the season, we wanted them to have something special. Yeah. And I know I'm looking forward to having mine, so thanks for designing it.
You're
Looks great.
welcome. Looks
Fantastic. Worth the wait.
Yep.
Speaking of waiting, where is my keychain from Anthony Duarte? I'm just full of misery and angst today.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you're going to have to wait just a little bit on that.
Okay, maybe he's never going to send it. I mean, we were out there.
Wink,
Pat
wink.
got his.
Wink, wink.
We finally answered who Jimmy's #1 fanboy is.
Yep.
It's apparently Pat Cousineau.
Yeah. Notice that's not us clapping.
And yes, and he does rub it in our face that he has that beautiful, custom machine keychain.
Are you kidding? The guy's got a shrine in his office. #1 fanboy of Jimmy Booth.
Yeah, well, everybody's got to have a #1 fan.
All right. So what else we got next week?
Speaking of Jimmy Booth, we hope to have, speaking of also long awaited, the T1 update on those Pennsylvania locomotives. They are going to be fabulous, fantastic. Yeah. We'll have finally all the versions available on the site.
Right.
Jimmy's going to show
reservations.
us some beautiful photos. They're going to know exactly what. And the project's been in process all this time. So, we got to make sure to get those reservations in to know exactly what versions are going to be the most popular.
Yeah. Can't wait for that next week.
Yeah, and plan on doing a nice little bit, which we haven't covered much this year, on the history of brass. So tune in for that and more. Thanks for joining us on Monday Morning Express.